The wooden ones always need some blowing.
Someone has.
Well, and also that'll, yeah. These are very sensitive.
Yes.
To change it.
Oh, and humidity.
Oh, yes.
We.
There you go. Are you here for me? That's one key. Looking across the valley from the highest mountain in the lower 48 sits Patriarch Grove. In the ancient bristlecone pine forest, a grove of the oldest non-clone living organism on the planet. They were seedlings before the ancient pyramids were built. They were middle-aged when Christ was born. The nutrient-poor, high alkaline soil, the scarcity of moisture, the relentless winds, brutal ice, and fierce sun make them dense and resonant. This protects them from insects and diseases, making life possible in this inhospitable place. They support and nourish future generations of trees. Their battle scars are their beauty. Harsh conditions twisting and sculpting them into magnificent spires, kind of like the sound of a flute. They patiently outlive the pettiness and short-sightedness of humanity. Nitra. This is Second Sunday Jimmy Poetry, and welcome to all of you. And if you are trying to get on the sign-up list, as soon as we do a little housekeeping, we'll go ahead and take care of that. I have to mention my partner, Jimmy Collins, who was a Black Panther back in Indianapolis back in the day. And he came up to me in 2010 and said, let's start a poetry reading. And I said, let's don't say we did. And I don't want to deal with all those personalities. And what came about is this village that we could never have predicted. We just were hungry for community. That is one of his paintings, Jimmy Collins. And this is one of his paintings over here. And his spirit is with us today. He taught me how to do this. And when I took myself to San Francisco last year for my birthday in January, I went to the Beat Museum and I got this. And I thought, this is what Jimmy Collins was all about. So this is what I'm all about. So we want anybody, any color of skin, any culture to feel comfortable here. This is an all culture place. He said, I have one condition about doing this. And I said, what's that? He said, we have to do it at a Black owned business. I said, well, I don't have a problem with that. So the owner who's in there cooking for you, his name is Frank Moody. He was in the Air Force for 20 years, Air Force veteran. And so can we give Frank Moody some love, please? And so anyway, we have a couple other things that I need to cover. If you need to go to the restroom, it's right behind me on the left when you walk in there. The deli has the best coffee and wine and beer in La Mesa. So please, and hamburgers. Isn't that right, Joe?
You're right.
So please avail yourself to the goodies that are over at the deli. And we have some very talented people in the room, which is what you will witness. And our feature for today is the second poet laureate of San Diego. Jason, would you wave to everybody, please? Jason Magabo Perez. He'll be our feature today. And we're so glad to have you. And I'm really, really excited that you're here. This is since 2011 when we started this. This has been about social justice here. And there's the poster man for social justice if you're interested. So thank you for coming, sir. All righty. You ready for some poetry?
Yes.
Well, I have a friend of mine who's on Zoom. Ellen, are you ready to read? And I'll introduce you. Ellen Wolf.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Let me just get my camera going. Okay.
We're in a poetry circle. We meet once a month. We just met yesterday. And when she writes, I can hear my heart beating and I calm down and I am transformed. And she's very, very powerful because she just retired. And so instead of writing for someone, she's going to be writing just for herself. So this is the amazing Ellen Wolf.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. And so this is a poem prosaically titled Summer. I think of the simplicity of past summers as the child of a family once farmers, dropping kernels of corn into furrows, following my dad, careful to be precise, ever hoping to please, slicing potatoes and burying them to grow into a fall harvest, the morning glory on the side fence, blossoming in blue so faithfully. Later in the Yakima Valley, the family garden gone, an entire landscape spreads out like a table laden with fruit, an expanse of cultivated fields and orchards, separated by the Horse Heaven Escarpment in the south and the Rattlesnake Hills to the northeast, the arid land blooming from irrigation, the entire valley aching in ripeness, redolent with the fragrance of cherries and apples, grapevines and hops strung on tall ladders. The harvest waits for that exact moment when pickers descend on the trees and vines, wearing bags slung from shoulders, wooden crates filling and then stacked at the end of rows, tractors moving along dusty paths, trucks waiting, the entire valley in a full-throated murmur of quiet satisfaction in the summer heat. Even the white roses at the front door wait breathlessly for our return home in the balm of twilight, as if some mystery were waiting to be discovered if we could only just touch it. Innocent summers, sensuous in pleasure-seeking warmth, gone as the earth bakes and burns, wildfires and floods speaking to a violent future. Here on the southern coast, I take my private joys in the face of climate guilt. Pacific breezes escorted inland across the chaparral, so cool under midsummer gray skies, and the cry of sea lions in the cove. And thank you.
How about some more love for Ellen?
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for coming. I wish my lawn was going to read, but we won't guilt trip her. Okay. Our next poet is an amazing Zoom engineer today for us. So we can always be sure that nothing's going to go wrong with the Zoom. He has a couple of books he's also written that have won some awards. But I always like hearing about Uncle Bob. When he's here, he'll maybe tell us about him. This is Joe Malash.
So yesterday I went up to see my mother-in-law, and there were things that needed to be fixed. They don't break to be repaired, they break so I can go up and visit with her. You know. And when I got there, a raccoon the night before had gotten up on the roof and dug 5 holes through the roofing. I never seen that before. But it was trying to get inside and nest in the attic. But then it decided it didn't like what it saw and just left 5 holes in there. But that has nothing to do with this poem. This is a poem I wrote while my wife was fighting cancer. It's called Advice to the Loved One. Waiting for my wife to complete her MRI, I have no patience with the book I bought to pass the time. Occasionally, I open it and remove my wife's picture that I used for a bookmark, then replacing it. I close the book and look at the receptionist talking to her sister about her recent breakup. Hanging up her smartphone, she turns on the TV and watches her favorite show, Advice to the Loved One, which starts with the host telling us that you should go to the seawall until the sounds of the waves sliding away from the shore become silent, and your mind becomes as opaque as the sky. He says that when you can recreate this very same tranquility in an airport or laundromat, that you should go home to your lover and sit in front of the fireplace with or without a fire. Sip a drink so simple you forget you are drinking it. Sit so close to your lover that your shoulders touch, but don't speak. Instead, conjure the silence of the waves and the opaqueness of the sky, and breathe steadily until you unearth the realm of the horizon and the space to begin. Of course, that is the way I think about, excuse me. Of course, that is the way we want our life and our love to continue. I think about our 30 years of marriage, its beginnings, and then I think about our rafting trip down the Colorado River and how we slept on the beaches. I remember one morning the river sparkled as she swam just before we broke camp. As she walks out of that examining room with its sterilized table, she rests on her cane. And looking at me, she smiles. I stand thinking this is what I want, even more than the health of our youth and that ride through the rapids. It's this delight in her infinite eyes. Thank you.
Joe went on vacation recently and caught the COVID on the cruise ship. And we were really worried about him. We're so glad. Can we give Joe some love, please? He made it back. He's okay. And he has invested in a podcast. And what's the name of your podcast, please?
Between Iron Fences.
Between Iron Fences. And I believe that if they go to anchor.fm
Or
Spotify, and you do a search for Joe Meloche. Say the name one more time.
Between Iron Fences.
Joe Meloche, Between Iron Fences. His podcast will come up for you. How many interviews have you done now?
I got 10 interviews.
10 interviews on there. And so there's an author's table over here. If you have been published, you come up here. Bring your books in, bring your CDs in. Jimmy said we have to support the arts community. We have to support the arts community. And so, if you got a podcast or whatever you're doing, there's a lot of roots on the archery in here today. And so we really want to support whatever you're doing. And especially if you're someone like Jason, who's our feature today, and he's all about social justice, and he's all about the people. And so anyway, thank you for all coming and listening to what's going to happen here today. Thank you very much. So if you, I'm wondering, Angeli, are you going to read today? You're muted, Angeli.
No. I'm just enjoying today.
You're a civilian today. Okay, well, if you change your mind, let me know.
Thank you.
Claire, are you reading today?
No, I didn't prepare anything.
Okay, I'm going to pout. Love you. Thank you for coming. Michael Clam, I love you too. You reading today?
I love you too, Jim. I'm a civilian today.
Is that Andy with his new book? Are you going to read today, Andy? Feliciano?
Yeah, I'll read one.
All right. I was hoping you would. Make sure you tell them about your new book too, okay?
Okay.
All
right. Should I go now?
Oh, hold on just a minute. We got a couple other people and then we'll come back up to the Zoom, okay?
Okay.
When you teach history for 4 or 5 millennium, you become very good at public speaking. And this young man definitely has that in common with a whole bunch of poets. Give some love for Chris Ernest Nelson.
Speech, I'll give you a speech. Thank you very much. Dee, the mic's not working, or can you hear me? Can you hear me now? To be an artist means you never quit. And you have to keep creating as long as you live. Well, my 5th edition is completed. I'm very pleased and offer that to you. For those of you that already have my book, please feel free to take a new one. I don't charge, but I would ask you to give the 4th edition to a friend. If you don't have my book yet, I insist that you take one today. I brought 4, and there'll be more as the year goes by. So thank you very much. And now I will proceed to verify its value by reading to you from its pages. I'm Chris Ernest Nelson, and this is, thank you. And I'd like to say hello to my friend Shannon and Jimmy. Thank you for joining us today. This is sometimes. High on the mountain where the air is thin, it is a labor to breathe, and your head pounds like a drum. There the horizon reaches beyond your fantastic dreams and touches your most restrained passions. When you hold your lover so tight, your breathing reconciles its rhythm, and in the warm cheek of the other, the harmony of life's song affirmed, you find serene sanctuary from the heartless, lofty wind's rebuke. You take in the air with such elevation, your body trembles near to fall, not from the dizzy heights, but from delight. Sometimes a breath is so sweet and full of promise, you will forever refuse to exhale. Thank you. And I'll close with staking a claim. And I'd like to send my regards to our friends on Zoom. Good to see you all. Staking a claim. I have been working my whole life to stake a claim in this world. I have framed my hand in ochre on the cave wall and left an echo in the waves of the sea. Because I know tomorrow is coming and I am called by destiny to visit territories not yet on the map. I will be moving to a new country charted only in dreams of love, not forgotten. So I dig deep into the fertile ground of my own feral and restless musings. Though I thought myself alone, since you were not with me, I spent my lifetime trying to make friends with myself. Now, in the twilight of my days, I know you are at my side, my dear friend. You will always be my comfort and my recompense for the loneliness I carry with me, because it is mine. Thank you very much for listening.
Our next poet is a musician. He's also someone who's a master carpenter. He was a pipe fitter for many, many years. He supports the Sundance in Arizona with his lovely wife, Lonnie. And if you go over to where he lives, he doesn't live in a house. He lives in a home that's also an art gallery. He's an amazing man, very talented. This is Jack Stewart Smith.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, family. I love you all.
No, I appreciate that. That's good. Hello. I think you might have hit the chords.
They don't always happens in home.
There you go.
There it is.
I guess if I lift the cord up, it's not gonna work, so we'll leave it down.
When I go away, walk through the door. Not hard to find, I've sang the song before. It's different now. I've suffered pain, I know, yeah, yeah. And I'm walking down that path that I've never known. Well, I'm not blind and I can't hear. I've changed my mind. The message clear reminds me of when young child's eyes are born. Yeah, yeah. And I'm walking down that path that I've never known, no, no. And I may have seen the song in my dreams before, yeah. Na 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 na. Na, 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 na. And I'm walking down that path that I've never known. No, 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 no. And I may have seen the song in my dreams before, yeah. And I'm walking down that path that I've never known, no, no. And I may have seen the song in my dreams before. This one, I just wrote it, so I have to use my glasses. You must be able to do impromptu things, right? So the artist said. The artist said, gotta keep going. About 10 days ago, I woke up in the morning and the song was playing in my head. I feel September rain. So here's the song. Don't turn away, no, no, please. Don't turn away. Just stand out here in the open with us. Feel September rain. It's been so hot, like embers in the flame. But a cool reprisal fills my soul. I see September rain. Blissful comfortless, break my weary soul. I now remember the coolness of winter I feel September rain. Don't turn away. Don't turn away. Could stand out here in the open with us until September rain. Yeah, yeah. On summer nights, roll down, hot heavy days. I feel the heat. I got to be there. I feel September rain. Listen now, from over the ocean, every new emotion. And then drops of freedom falling. I feel September rain down. From over the ocean, there's a new emotion. That's finally drops of freedom. Fall on me now, fall on me now. Don't turn away, please don't turn away. Yeah. Just stand out here in the open with us and feel September rain. That was pretty good. That's Jack Smith. Can we give him some more love, please? So he built these two structures in his backyard, one for his wife, and one for him.
Running Zoom?
And he made sure
Sort of, yeah.
that the,
Your William?
when the roofs were really close, he made sure they were touching.
What is your name?
Can we give him some love for that?
Mirage? Yes. Oh, didn't recognize you, I'm sorry. You were on Sue's program. Oh, yes.
Well, we're just so proud to have this next poet. She's taught all over the world, been a part of theater, been a part of being a voice coach. She featured here, and we're just really lucky to have her. Give some love for Jan Gist.
Hello. In my 5 minutes of 3 poems, a few pieces of my own personal journey. Sweeping diamonds. It's because I'm coming alive, back alive again. That's why the dream, the old luminous woman sweeping diamonds over the newly paved street. Fresh black, almost sparkling black, new pavement, cleansing what had been poisoned, cleansing the street with the sweep of diamonds. And that's why the songs that sing themselves in my skull, pieces of sappy lyric about love, finding love, having love all around, but I never heard them ringing, songs of promise, of love and bells. And that's why I hear birds in different distant trees over the grind of traffic, warbles to my left, chirps to my right, down the canyons and up the neighboring cul-de-sac. They sing, my skull sings, my dream woman, luminescent, sweeps diamonds. Ah, I say, ah, that's why I'm coming back. I am. I am standing. My bare feet are rooting into the warm clay of earth, and layer beneath layer of earth feels me. My feet touch this ground, this slightly damp and more than slightly warm layer of ground, and this layer, being touched, touches her lover layer laying below her, and below her touches her lover layer below her, touches below her, layers of lover layers being touched, feeling touch, touching below her, down and down, circles of layers to center. And center is an enclosed sphere of water and wet air, a warm mist above a stillness which is a pond, a mirror pond reflecting a warm mist above a stillness which is a pond. And the touching lover layers pass along to center that I am, bring about the genesis of breath. And with breath, the mist above the pond begins to slowly swirl, and swirling mist circles and encircles mist that swirls and swirls around the core of mist that revolving evolves into a tear. One shimmering pearl drop tear encircled by the swirling mist hovers above the stillness that is a mirror pond, hovers, growing heavy with mist that clings and swirls until all that touching, passing, swirling, growing, circling hurls the teardrop downward through what was a stillness that was a mirror pond, transforming stillness into motion. The tear dropping through the mirror forms a growing, circling ripple, rippling outward. The now moving water, rippling, touches earth. And feeling touch, the layers of lover layers pass along from center out to layers of lover layers, up and up, circles of layers to my feet, the returning message that I am. I have come a long, long way. I have come a long, long way. I have come from dark old, mean old, sad old days, baby days and bleeding, dying, helpless horror days. And I have worked so hard and come so far and cleaned out poisons, drained out poisons, words that killed me, touch that killed me, lack of touch that killed me. And I died and died and died and didn't die because I worked and worked and worked. And even when I didn't think I'd ever live to find it lighter, kinder, safer, quiet, I still worked. And even when I did not know how it could be different, if it could be different, I worked. And now it is lighter, kinder, safer, quiet. It is easier. And I am easier. And I am safe to breathe, to rest, and even to reflect that I have come a long, long way to here, to now, to this, today, so far.
Jan, we usually do 2 points in 5 minutes, but did you bring their rules today? Did you bring the point their rules?
I have it in my car. I could go get it if you want me to.
Why don't you go get it? We'll have another quote come up and then I'd like you to read that because just because Jason is here, I think that would be a good point.
Okay.
All right. Jan Gist. How many veterans are here today? Raise your hand. Thank you for your service. Welcome home. And I'm doing a free group of poetry classes. My cards are over there with the link on there. They're the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. They're free classes for veterans. I'm funded by the Institute of Poetic Medicine, and I'm not going to charge my fellow veterans. I'm a Vietnam veteran. And what we have in our nation is 22 veterans a day committing suicide, and that's unacceptable to me. To get through a war, and to come home and take your own life because there's not enough resources for you. If you call the Veterans Administration, it's the only business I've ever heard where they say, hey, put in the numbers for your who you're trying to call. And if you're feeling suicidal, if you're feeling like taking your life, call the suicide prevention line. Who else does that but the Veterans Administration? Okay, so if you are interested in that and you know a veteran that maybe is feeling some suicidal ideation or something like that, give them my card and tell them to come and write some poetry with me, because poetry is transformational. How many of you feel different since you walked in the room and heard this poem now? Anybody got something different going on here? Yeah, so I was at the Veterans Center in Chula Vista on Friday, and this woman was there with a lot of problems with her husband, with PTSD and stuff. And I showed her a poem by Pablo Neruda that had graphics, it had sea themes, ocean themes on it. And then I just, after the poem was over, I said, what are you experiencing now? What are you aware of? I didn't ask her how she was feeling. She said, I hear my heart beating and I'm calm now. And I said, after what you said about what's going on with your husband, how did you go from there to where you are now? She said, it's the poetry. It's the poetry. A fellow veteran in the Navy, he went on a ship that could make it from Hawaii to San Diego in what, 10 minutes, I think it was? This is David Legenhorst. Please give him some love.
Thank you, Jim. So I'm a veteran too. I'm a Vietnam era veteran, which means I got out of the Navy in 1964. My grandson is now a veteran. Thank God he came back okay. That last summer, he was in Syria for 6 months. He was in the Middle East for 8 months. And they were shooting at him. So God, he's so many, if not all of you, know that we lost a really terrific person and poet recently, Curran Jeffrey, my friend, our friend. And so I'd like to read a few of his poems. I wanted to share this is Curran. This was a little book he sent me last year. Okay. It's a book, and it says, and he's got these little quotes in here. Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. And that's by Brené Brown, if I'm saying that correctly. I believe a leaf of grass is no less than the journey work of the stars. And there's this illustration too. The mind of itself can make heaven hell, or make hell a heaven. Paradise Lost, John Milton. Hey, David, this is my homemade book for 2022. Something different. Enjoy.
Yes.
Okay, I got a few of his little poems to read. This is one of my favorite. It's very short. It's called Tequila Jesus. Yeah. Tequila Jesus. Warm me up, tequila. Warm me up, Jesus. I love tequila. And I love Jesus. Let's have another shot. Let's dance on the moon. Religion and booze have a lot in common. When abused, they make you stupid. This one is called Entanglement. Space and time are created by entanglement. We are all caught up in it, the entanglement. Stop for a moment and look around you. The things in your life represent your entanglement. Your books, your music, your favorite things, all tell your story. Your entanglement. It's not a bad thing. It's you. You are unique in all the universe. There is no other you in all the world. All of creation would be less if you were not you, entangled exactly as you are. But then there is a story. You like parts of it, but you don't like it all. Like all of it. You wake up every morning and face your entanglement with hope, fear, joy, resolve, mistakes, success, anxiety, depression, boredom. Welcome to life in time and space. There is a voice in the heart that the brain can't touch, who calls you and will comfort you. That's one that's dear to my heart. It says, I love getting old. Damn, am I ever getting old? Never knew I'd get this one. Damn. Anyway, I love getting old. I love getting old. There are things that are no longer young, like sitting at a bus stop. Before it was about getting to work on time. Now, the next stop is death. So I'm not in a hurry. I just sit and wait, smile, and soak in the sunshine. There are so many stories at the bus stop. Some happy, some very sad. Sometimes I have to stop and let it all go, knowing I can't heal their pain, but I can bless quietly in my own mind, wondering, is the universe listening? Yeah. And I'll end with this one. The 20th century. I evoke the ancient grail which precedes the riddle of time and how the hours fail, to question the mystery of rhyme. I evoke virgin's blood spilled by the warrior's craft, who watched the primal flood water the autumn shaft. And now the dreams of the daughters nurture their mother's tears, as calves to the slaughter, sons fall upon their spears. And how computers to their suitors their dowry did bestow, to the lords of demon looters who dance on the stolen soul. My friend, your friend, a wonderful man, Jeffrey Stone. Well, remember you, Jeffrey. Thank you, David. Just one other thing. You were talking about the power of poetry. I started this 4 years ago. I came to that lady's, Deborah's poets at the bench. First time I had just come out of deep depression. And part of my therapy had been starting to write poetry. That was the first time I was brave enough to come read anything I had. And I think becoming a part of this community is probably the best thing that's ever happened. God bless you. I'm 80 years old and I'm as happy as I have ever been. Thanks. David Legnor. Give me some more love.
And Poetry at the Bench is now Poetry at the Grove. Deborah Ramos waved to everybody. She's the host of it. Last Sunday of the month, 2:00. And I've been there and it's really cool. Last time I was there, everyone went, look. And we went, what? And there was a tree with a little squirrel. He was listening to the poetry. He was eating this little nut, looking at whoever was reading. I don't know how you did that, but it was magic. That's Deborah Ramos, the host of Poets at the Grove. All right, thank you. I like to call that an electric picnic, because it was so magical. And if you like things like electric picnic, then our next poet. Oh, I forgot to say, if you're a poet, it's 2 poems or 5 minutes. If you're a musician, it's 2 songs or 10 minutes. So there's people waiting, so please respect that. And our next poet has a radio show called The Electric Picnic. and she just published a new book. Please welcome Susan Taylor.
Okay. Well, I gotta tell you, having a book published is a lot more than I expected when my dad said, you'll never get hired as an English teacher. Oh, which was a lot of years in middle school. So this is my poem that I could make. I have a radio program on KNSJ, Social Justice Radio, 89.1 FM. It's all volunteer community radio. And poets out here, I've had Krista Nelson on my show, Jim Moreno's been on the show, Joe Malash, Deborah Ramos, Marjorie, I don't know her last name, Frenoli. And Jack Stewart, and I hope I'm not missing somebody here in the room. But so please contact me, or the producer is sitting right here, Marie Johnson, and KNSJ.org, info at KNSJ.org. And I'd love to have you as a guest poet. Super easy, you have 54 minutes. And I ask you questions, you read, and we have a beautiful new recording studio. She just put to us by the
Employee Rights Center.
Employee Rights Center on Home Avenue. So it's actually big time. We're in a studio with a microphone.
And you'll have a great discussion with Sue.
Thank you, thank you. So I just want to say, just sitting here, I want to give love to Deborah Ramos, because I started going to poets at the bench a few years ago, and I found such a encouraging community there that I started thinking I can write poetry, and I can actually stand up in front of people and write poetry. So I've just been sitting here today, and here's something very short that I wrote. Mommy listens, Jack sings, guitar string, so the lady. I just was, yeah.
Could you read it one more time?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Lonnie listens, Jack sings, his guitar strings lasso the ladies. And then, I knew Curran Jeffries. It's a shock to me that he passed. So I just wrote a little poem right now. No, a poet says that Curran died. He gathered writers upstairs at the Stotts. 4 people I cared for, gone in 7 months. Marie, the producer of my program on the radio, hears a lot of my poetry, and I've been thinking a lot about the people in Maui. I wrote this today. Treetops sway green, treetops sway green, sand ash gray. Charred plumerias lay down, LEI lay down. Flames lapping white water, kayaks grounded. And then I just think I have time to read 2 books, poems from my book. Thank you to all the veterans out there. And this one is called The Boots. I wrote this March 25th of last year. House of Ukraine is giving away more than cakes and tea on a sunny weekend in the park. Repurposed boots and flak jackets brought in by Vietnam vets. Trucked to LA, flown to Chicago, put on planes to Poland, transported to Ukrainian soldiers. Boots that sludged through Mekong jungles, and jackets that 60s hippie combatants sweltered in, and that held cannabis comforts in dirty pockets. Can a flak jacket save a broken heart? Will old boots find new paths? in peace and understanding. My husband says you can't have too many t-shirts, and he walks out proudly from the Goodwill store with 3 all cotton t-shirts, marled, a little faded for $12. We're the frugal fraction of the 99%. But a better buy is to get a Stand with Ukraine t-shirt. It costs $30, but it's worth every cent. There are full fur colored coats and babushkas seen on TV. They cannot bring warmth to cold basements and frostbitten faces. We've got an extra room for a couple or a single Ukrainian person waiting at the US-Mexico border, hoping to find their cousin in Los Angeles. Preferably, they've been vaccinated. Give the go-ahead, Joe, and they can sleep at our house for a few quiet nights. Our dog would love it, and they would be safe. Our neighbors in North Park are progressive. We tell people, of course, because we're too full of hubris. But hell, it might be good for something. Meanwhile, the crack leather boots will wait for marching orders. More success to them this time, we think. Tread bravely on the shattered theater window glass. Do not step on hand grenade, but do step on enemy aggression. Lace stuff, buttoned and buckled, military gear. Then, now, here, there, them, us. And then, I'm an adoptive mother, and today I was thinking about birth mothers. Both of my children have found their birth mothers, which is great. My daughter was born in Korea, and she came to be my daughter when she was 3 months old, and now she lives in Korea and is married to a Korean man, and they have a Korean American baby named Maddox. So cute, he's 18 months old, and she has met her birth mother, still living in Busan in the south of South Korea, where my daughter was born. And then my son is white, and he was a private adoption, and he found his birth mother who gave birth to him when she was 14, and now she's a successful nurse living in Florida, and she has children of her own. So this is about the other family. They were always there, fuzzy outlines, silently moving, sitting in living rooms, touching trees as they passed them. I seem to recall they had light hair that went here and they went there with each light breeze. The weather's always warm. I see no coats, no powder blue knit caps. They may see me, I don't know, because to them I don't exist. I'm her mother. I'm she who was his first wife, mother of his first 2 children, and now they only present when I'm feeling alone. Give me your full attention. I have COVID, and you want me to wait until Monday when they leave to use FaceTime. I really want to tell you things now in real time, cognizant that it is before noon here, and where you are is in the other family's time zone. Baby may be ready for bed. I want to rub his little back in his little soft onesie. I'm sick and I feel lonely, like a little lost girl in the mall. My other child's other family seems not to care about me either, except for the nice one, the daughter-in-law's father who died recently. He asked questions and was funny. For his clan, I probably asked too many questions. Shame on extrovert me. As if Midwest and West Coast don't speak the same language. When really, earthquakes and tornadoes aren't that different. Burnt-in barbecue doesn't trump fish tacos. I haven't been sleeping and I'm run down. I'm feeling really sorry for myself, annoying you. And now I am cut off from my children's children, reminiscent as the divorce court order from 35 years ago. I was always in the background. And one other thing I wrote today was, I think birth mothers think their birth babies who are grown up think about mothers.
Thank you.
I have my breakfast over there on the table.
Thank you, Susan. Andy Paliciano has a new book. He's a very, very clever poet. He makes a living by reminding us that he's been a substitute teacher for as long as Chris Ernest Nelson was teaching history. And I love how this man writes. This is Andy Paliciano. You ready, Andy?
Yeah, thanks. Okay, yeah, my new book is called Revolutions Night and Day, and it's a collection of day poems and night poems that mirror the rotation of the earth. And I'll read one from that, and then I'll read a couple from that. But this first one's called, and it's available on Amazon. You have to type in books and then my name, and it would come up. But this one's called The Starry Ever. Reginald pushed his cart under the Starry Ever. The villagers called him the village fool. Reginald had no home and talked to himself, but no one listened to him. Reginald thought the Starry Ever was so far away, but the Starry Ever heard every word that Reginald said and answered each word. Sometimes Reginald didn't like what the Starry Ever told him. There were words like no and not now. When Reginald indirectly asked for something through his cry and was told not now, Reginald said many words, but the heart of the words, which no one could decipher but the Starry Ever, was saying, "You always say no, and you put me working toward it. You promised." And the Starry Ever said, "I said not right now, not no." The people of the town thought Reginald talked to no one and was like a piece of dust in the vacuum of space, and that no one cared where that dust landed. But little did they know that the Starry Ever cared about nothing more than where this village fool, as they called him, was going to lay down his head to rest for the night. There was a thatch house on the banks of the river. Reginald walked by along the river but was spoken to, something that hadn't happened in some time, by the man who owned the thatch house. He said, "Come and stay in my guest house. There is room for you." That night, Reginald made his soft bed with blankets and went outside to the fire by the riverside and warmed himself. In that moment, as he looked up to the Starry Ever, he realized it wasn't so far away, and that in that ever was one loving person. It was the first time he called into the Starry Ever, Lord, that is to say, Daddy. Okay, and then I want to read one more. Okay, this is a book. I'm a job coach. I work with disabled people, and this is something that happened to me as a job coach. Tonight, I worked as a job coach in a grocery store, a Vons, just like the Vons where Dina worked. I was her job coach for a few months, and while there, Dina and I became friends. Tonight, the man I was working with as a new bagger did well. I noticed there was a kid begging next to us that reminded me of a guy that worked at Dina's store. The baggers tonight had to say to the checkers, Bob, which means bottom of basket, if they had waters or something on the bottom tray of the cart. Dina had a manager that used to grind this. Hey, Dina, did you ask about Bob? How about that, Bob? She said he used to say this 5 times a minute to her. We joked that we should get this manager the movie What About Bob for his birthday. I was thinking about this tonight and laughing when I looked up, and in the line checking out at my guy's line was Richard Dreyfuss. The man I was working with said, I think I know him. I laughed and said, I know. And my guy said, I think he was in the movie What About Bob? I laughed as we had not talked about this at all before this. He didn't know Dina. We carried his groceries to his car and he tried to tip us. We laughed and said we couldn't accept tips. He said, in this economy? I laughed and had a moment with Dina. We got inside and my guy said, he was a famous actor. I said, yeah, he's been in a lot of movies. He was in Jaws. And my guy corrected me and said, no, he was in What About Bob? Thanks.
Thank you, Andy, and thanks for coming. If you came in here late, you didn't get to hear the poem that started us off. I was backed up by Anitra Card-Smith, and I hope that she's going to back me up on my last poem. She comes to my classes all the time, and she gives such warm feedback to beginning poets that I feel warm, and it's also always very insightful feedback to give the person confidence, but also to nurture, just like a grandma does. This is Anitra Card-Smith.
I notice how many of us are in my demographics. And a new title for a poem came to me a minute ago, and I wrote it down, Writing from the Home Stretch. Okay. This is a little poem. What's too little for a poem? A nail cutting lying on a bathroom counter? The last piece of spinach stuck to the side of the pan? The lowering sound of water as it warms out of the faucet? A freckle next to your eye? The momentary scent of an outdoor fire at the beach? The passing taste of a mustard seed caught in your teeth? An ant making a right turn? What do you call that tape that the police put, where there's been a crime? Crime tape. Crime tape? Okay. Well, I just read a book that should have crime tape around it before anybody opens it. I'm taking a class in novel writing from Rich Farrell, and that's significant to this poem, as you'll see. And he had mentioned a book called Hold the Dark by William Giraldi. Have any of you read it? Oh, well, you may want to think twice. It's probably the strangest and most violent book I've read. And beautiful writing. Oh my God. I read the whole damn thing, but it's like, so I wrote a poem. I was inspired to write a poem by the book and its strangeness and so on. There is a joke. I couldn't get away without making a joke. And I wrote this as a result of being in Rich Farrell's class. That's a big hint. Oh, another thing. Any jazz players here? A little bit of jazz? Okay. Well, in jazz, when you play, you always play a tune exactly as the composer wrote it first. That's called the head, because you're honoring the writer, and then you can go on riffing and fooling around. So I riffed on that book. I started with what's almost a word for word quote, so don't blame me for this, okay? Al picks a nub of snot out of his nose and pokes it in his mouth. before slitting the wolf's belly and watching the entrails slide steaming onto the dirt. And in this place, Alaska rubs raw against whatever can live out beyond. The line hazes between 4 foots, sharp with fangs, and 2 foots, sharp with knives. Death cozies up close when life rumbles toward it, brief, rich, feral. Feral. It's a rich feral, and I don't think you saw the joke.
Milan Gittleson and I were in Steve Callett's critique class, and he passed away about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was the last Sunday of the month, just like Deborah Ramos's poetry reading is the last Sunday of the month, and I was always astounded at her poems. Her poems always moved me. This is Milan Gittleson.
Thank you, Jim. I lost my husband to Alzheimer's disease this year, and I've been reflecting on our journey together, beginning with the early signs when he forgot how to get to the doctor's office and other lapses. And I found this poem. It's called It's Thursday, and this is what I know. It's Thursday, and this is what I know. Today, my husband's mind is empty. He wants to know where we are. We are at home. How long have we lived here? Over 50 years. He asked about granddaughter Michelle. How old is she? She's 34. Oh, I thought you said she's still a baby. I asked him, do you remember living in Berkeley? His face crumples. No, I don't. I've forgotten so much. I am hopeful. Perhaps his memory will come back this afternoon, in a week, next month. If you leave a jigsaw puzzle on a table, it will be waiting for you to find the next piece. Is that true? Are the pieces still in his brain? And can he put them back in place? Thank you for listening.
I wanted to try to say her age very gracefully. So I asked the wordsmith, if an 80-year-old is an octogenarian, what do you call someone who's in their 90s? And he said, ma'am.
Wow.
You don't.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
A musician, a professor of music at San Diego State, an amazing person on the keyboard, the organ too, the piano and the organ. When her legs work. This is the amazing Dolores Fisher.
Anthology, Good Trouble. Ah, here it is. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm sorry. Hello, family. Yes. People will tell you I don't say that often. Hello, family. I'd like to read 2 poems for you. The first one is in my new collection. I'm working on my second book finally, after like 20 years. But these are the Tonawanda years. I'm an African American who grew up in the suburbs. Yeah, way back. We talked about it a little bit. This is childhood memory, town of Tonawanda, New York. Firefly flight in late summer air just after dusk glow. Shimmers and sparkles, bright little lights out on ugly little bugs. Pretty, pretty, pretty lights. Firefly flight from porch chairs. Feels warm evening air with flourishes and sad delight. Sad delight that dog day dreaming must come to end. And Tonawanda will soon feel autumn breezes that march across the center stage of our lives. And so I had the wonderful privilege of being one of the poets chosen for an activist poetry anthology, selected Poems for Good Trouble, co-editors Jim Hornsby Moreno and Joseph D. Malash. Thank you, thank you. I am in the company of so many marvelous, marvelous poets that I just, well, I am honored and humbled. I'd like to dedicate this poem to Chris Benoit because he's not here and it won't embarrass him. I thank the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for bringing people into our lives when we need them. I thank God for that wonderful intervention. This is entitled Poet Man. Who is that poet man? Thin, not tall, pale, not tanned, clean shaven. That was when he was clean shaven, you know. It was not clean shaven. With strong, no nonsense chin, blue amber eyes, piercing my life. Words so plain they shadow dance through memories of smoke-filled underground night spots where bongos tap war cries decoded by locals who tolerate visiting, vapid, hungry posers starving for an essence of real artist life. Who is that poet man? Wednesday night, midweek, open mic renewal resuscitates opaque gray fade weekends of hedonistic pseudo. Opaque gray fade, opaque gray fade weekends, numbing words that burn like fire. Posers standing on the stage of Claire de Lune. But who is that poet man with reality in his eyes, with love in his heart, who sees young poets wasting their lives? Who is that poet man? That poet man grabs my hand, keeps my embers from slippage into darkness. That poet man, that poet man, that poet man is back in town and does not like what he has found, so he grabs us all. You all know some of the culprits because you were there. I won't list them, but if it hadn't have been for Chris, and he does not like what we have become. So he grabs us all, his dying poet children, overripe from public desecration, infected by celebrity and delusion across the poet stages of America. He gathers us under his wings, carries us when we cannot walk, replenishes dry, empty throats with clean, clear, pure water, shines light on our eyes when we beg for false fame, sleep, opens our ears to poet, open our ears to song, open our ears to the rhythm of the music of life that germinates within all of us. And then He lets us see the future and opens our ears to a young poet named Matt and Matt's cautionary Jeremiah at Claire de Lune Cafe. Who are you dying for? And we stopped. The next generation on the stage was challenging us posers who wanted celebrity and fame and fortune. Who are you dying for? The poet man takes us down to the riverside to wash by the poetry tree, to bathe us in the Jordan of words and truth, and cool, soothing, still waters, words that burn like fire. And the fire begins to return. And the fire begins to return. And we begin to live and breathe and know why we were here. Who is that poet man? We heal, renew our vows, and honor the gift that God gave us.
Dolores Fisher. You know, you tightened your seatbelts up a bit on that. You can loosen them up now. Thank you for coming. Every time, you just deliver. You just deliver. Are you ready for the feature?
Yeah.
Teacher Stroll from San Marcos, and that's all the energy you have. Are you ready for the feature? Jason Magabo Perez is a poet, essayist, fiction writer, performer, educator, community organizer, and author of the full-length collection of poetry and prose titled This Is for the Mostless. That was one sentence. How about that for someone who's prolific, huh? He blends poetry, prose, performance, film, video, ethnography, and oral history to explore the lived histories, contemporary experiences, and futures of Filipino American communities. A Cal State University San Marcos statement reads. He also serves as a community arts fellow for the Bulasan Center for Filipino Studies at UC Davis. Jason has been appointed as the City of San Diego's Poet Laureate, a post he will hold for 2 years. The Poet Laureate serves as an ambassador for the arts, advocating for poetry, spoken word, and literary arts on behalf of the city. Our second Poet Laureate of San Diego, this is Jason Magabo Perez.
Give it up to you all for coming out with poetry on a Sunday. Thank you, Jim Marino, for inviting me. Jim had approached me at the Calvert Award San Diego Poetry celebration in April, and it was when I moved back to San Diego. I was gone just for a few short years in LA. I moved back to City Heights. I'm actually living in Claremont, so I wasn't too far today. But I remembered, just was sort of remembering a lot of names, a lot of folks that we came across, and all the different open mics, the Poetry Slam at the Urban Grind that Rob Sullivan was running. Claire de Lune's just reference Poetic Brew, right? I think that was on Tuesdays, Mondays or Tuesdays. There was a really happening spot in this South Asian or this Indian restaurant in downtown La Jolla called Galoka.
Yeah.
Just a lot of different spaces where I was a young college kid, just really trying to find my love for language and my love for literature. And Jim was there. He was always around and he was always there. So when I think of, you know, me sort of in some ways coming full circle to be honored as the poet laureate of the city and represent the city and also the county. I grew up in Oceanside, so Oceanside to pass the border in San Diego to me, and just building with those communities. I think of folks like Jim and folks like Chris Vanoy and just the great communities that have been built in San Diego. So I'm really humbled and happy to be here out here in the Mesa. Thank you for welcoming me into your community to share a little bit of work with you. And I'm hoping that we can continue to build and you know, bring poetry to our people, as has always sort of been the case for me. Right? I think writing for me has always been about community. It's never been an individual solo act, and this is not to say I don't appreciate my alone creative time, but certainly poetry, community, and liberation have always been in the same effort for me. Right? So, time. I ask about what falls away. I ask about what falls away. I ask about where water sings. Here is surplus of sun, ocean of excess, remaindered song. Whose hands wash this sky? Who drains this sun against worry? Whose mighty ache remakes history? This is where water drains, where gardens grow against worry, against the crisis of capital, and capital knows nothing but the veil hiding hand from profit. Here's leftover rice and the wild imaginary of hunger. Here is a canal in the crook of the earth, and here is where water sings. And this is water singing us elsewhere. So speaking of full circle, August 6th marked the what would have been the 45th birthday of a dear poet, activist friend of mine named Joy De La Cruz, who I think a lot of folks had come across her free spirit. I have her signature tattooed on my arm. We were a part of a spoken word group coming out of UCSD called the Freedom Writers, not the movie Freedom Writers. We had a whole debate about this. And we got together and we performed at protests and just sort of really found community in each other and support and found a family in each other to build with other folks, right? And so a lot of the reason why sort of I wanted to come back and get back home, get back to San Diego and do organized community through the literary arts, through poetry, through cultural work, was in memory of Joy. So Joy passed away tragically in a car accident on October 6th, 2003. This October 6th marks the 20th anniversary of her passing. She passed at the very, very young age, 25 years old, was an incredibly free spirit poet, just could command a room in ways that were gentle, that were fierce, that were all about sort of mutually dignifying relationship building. And I reflect a lot about our conversations and the work that we were setting out to do. We didn't have the skills. I mean, we were in our 20s. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We just know we like to listen to things, read things, share things, and just build community. And so coming back to this work and knowing Joy has sort of been a consistent presence with us is really important. So I wanted to read a poem for her. Her birthday, again, what would have been her birthday, her 45th birthday, was on August 6th. And the Freedom Writers, the group, we're still family. We're all sort of dispersed, doing different things, working in different parts of education or different kinds of things in serving our communities. But at one point, we were gathering every single birthday or on her death anniversary. every year. And so we would drive up to the Bay Area. Her family's from the Bay Area. Their family would come down. This year, a lot of folks, many of us have families and things like that. And so some of us met at Liberty Station. We got on Zoom. And so and her parents and her family got on Zoom, and we were all able to celebrate. So I want to read this in honor of her, as I wasn't able to do that. I just joined Instagram. I don't know anything about social media, right? But I was going to try to read this on Instagram, and I didn't know how to do it. So I'm going to read it live and share it with you because I feel welcomed into the space by the energy and the work that everybody shared. So give me a second. I'm going to drink some water, and then I'll share this piece. That one October 6th for Elaine Joy de la Cruz, 1978 to 2003. Let us rent a Winnebago for real this time around. There'll be no need for you to drive across these lands alone. We won't pass through or on the I-80 this time around. We will pull over and camp and sleep and keep our mouths shut. Remember that humid summer, that summer just before in Argyle, Chicago, and there were so many gnats trapped in our hair, on our collars, in our eyes, in our wind, in our wind. If only fireflies could escape our wind, our mouths this time around. Dear Joy, I know the epistolary form is super tired and hella uninventive. Dear Joy, I shall proceed anyway. Dear Joy, failed poem for you, #1. Title, When My Sister Flew Away. Useful imagery. The tongue of serpents used to skin drums. Also, the humming in my head. Humming, humming, humming. Dear Joy, were you going to tell me that you plan on wearing the earth today? Dear Joy, another fragment. Something about you being glorious and gorgeous. But glorious you need not be, you say. I think that's what you say. Is that you, friend? October 6, 2003, San Marcos, California. Friend, you are fabulous. I don't like voice messages. In fact, I've come to hate and fear them because of this. I'm about to drive home from work. 3 new messages. Noel, babe, call back. Vanessa says she just heard about you. Edwina says to call back. Fuck. Is it my worst nightmare? It's Joy, sweetie, says Edwina, choked up. She had an accident. She didn't make it. Dear Joy, that evening, that moment, that forever, that exact never, my laughter melts my lungs. I don't even know how I get here, but here, right here, is where everyone is. I'm trying here, friend. Wings, grace, cliche, cliche, esoteric letter, cliche, cliche, angel, so cliche. Here is my cop-out. You are the poem. Profound, I know. Lazy, I know. March 26, 2004. Dear Joy, Escondido, California. Deer Park Monastery, the first ever mindfulness retreat for people of color, led by Thich Nhat Hanh, rest in peace, Thich Nhat Hanh, Diane, Denise, Rafa, Dabu, Jesse, Justin, John S., and May, all here, bread and milk, the cosmos, never tasted so good. Eating an orange mindfully is like eating an orange while high without necessarily having smoked herb. Dabu and the others are trying to meet each other in their dreams. They like traveling too, friend. Profound, you are the poem, and no, I never saw the flower tucked behind your ear. That was never us kneeling in front of you. I never smiled nor continue to smell the candles and carnations. That was not Lorelei and me, hesitant to walk up and say goodbye before they closed the casket. No, the dim lighting never made me nauseous either. Nope, never. I dream of you on an escalator, hitchhiking on the side of the road, on a Berkeley street corner, somewhere along the endless I-5, the grapevine. The moon is a velvet skull, and nighttime is seaweed and vanilla smoke. Dear joy, I moved to Oakland. I'm starting grad school today. I'm studying writing like I promised. Were you gonna open that we're gonna open that writing center one day. I miss San Diego, and you, of course. Dear Joy, today in grad school, I learned that it's literarily brilliant sometimes to do this. Dear Joy, dear Joy, dear Joy, dear Joy, dear. August 6, 2004. Dear Joy, happy birthday. I walked around Lake Merritt this morning. I thought that if I walked and thought about every step as mindfully and undistractedly as possible, there'd be a slight but magical chance that you'd appear and you'd be walking next to me. But now you are forever driving to New York, traveling to the inside of our longing. Weren't the styrofoam cups and potato chip bags and the bottle caps on the lakeshore exactly stunning? This afternoon is cold and depressing, and grad school is a dark, intellectual, and isolated place. In other words, grad school is cold and, yes, depressing. I'm on Valencia Street in the Mission, Modern Times bookstore. There's a book, Youthscapes, the popular, the national, the global. It's forward, written by George Lipsitz. The first words, Joy de la Cruz. What a gift you are, friend. May 26, 2005. Dear Joy, there's an internship named after me. Dear Joy, I haven't written a sad poem in ages. Is it because I never cried at the funeral? Sometimes, these days, I do cry in the morning. My rib cage is open and my throat is warm, coated with ink, blood, and what I wish to believe is you, friend. Dear Joy, everyone travels to the Bay every October, once in August for your birthday, friend. Dear Joy, I'm writing a novel about my mother. I promise it'll be better than that silly, syntactically offensive poem I used to perform over and over. Thank you for loving that silly poem. You and my mother look alike in my guided meditations. You and she have the same silhouette. By the way, your baby sister and your mama came to my show in Soma last night. Your mama made your sister, who then made your mama, give me two $20 bills to support our hungry artist dreams. April 29, 2006. Dear Joy, LA Uprising, 14 years ago. I'm graduating today, and I don't visit your headstone. Dear Joy, every 6th is Joy Day. Dear Joy, we have a Black president. Dear Joy, Diane named the character Hope to honor you, to remember you in her play the year after. And Hope is a part of the popular imagination. Dear Joy, stuff you most likely know. Christine is a high school teacher in Vallejo. She's not principal. Renee is a high school teacher in LA, a comedian on his off hours. He's now, I don't know if you watch that show, The Bear. I co-produced that show. Diane creates paroles out of bottle caps and manages programs for an arts nonprofit in the Bay, Long Beach. Steve went to film school. He's married now. Irvine. Arash is still a hustler, the safe kind. Did you see him on How I Met Your Mother? And BJ is Professor Jennings. Dear Joy, let us rent a Winnebago this time around. This time around. This time around. Yes, this time around we will not pass or through the I-80. We will turn around and head back to San Diego, here where everyone seems to be right now, in my head, in my waiting and waiting. Dear Joy, you keep wearing this earth without letting us know. Dear Joy, why didn't you tell me you were going to wear the sky tonight? I feel so terribly underdressed. you for letting me bring joy into the room.
Yeah, she was amazing.
I'm gonna read a few short things. I want to give out, is Michael Clam still here? I want to shout out Michael Clam. He's sort of one of the first folks that sort of reached out to me and was like, hey, and we've sort of been in loose touch. I think Michael was on the slam team with one of my best friend, BJ Jennings in 2000. I want to say that slam team was 2002 or 2003. And so Michael Clam is one of the main editors of the San Diego Poetry Annual. Really important institution and effort and movement in our poetry community and our broader community. So please support, please submit. I was fortunate enough to be invited to submit something, but I want to continue to support our efforts, our collective efforts in publishing, both in sort of braving the difficult capitalist piece of shit industry of publishing. If that's where we want to go, I don't hate on anyone for that, right? But braving that and supporting each other, but also trying to sort of remind each other of alternatives and sort of who we do our work for and who we are building with. So I think the San Diego Poetry Annual really opens up a lot of sort of what's possible for us with San Diego poetry. But I want to read a poem I have in there. Just as a little shout out to Michael and the team publishing the San Diego Poetry Annual.
Thank you.
This is titled, We Play a History of Hiding Aunties, Hiding Uncles. We believe the world to be temporary. We are always nervous about, excuse me, let me start over. We believe the world to be temporary. We are always nervous about what lives between work and the work of suicide. We believe in aftermath of disaster, light to heavy, charred geography where we are less ourselves and somewhat in love. We have heard rumors about this city, the awe, the results, gentrification, waking publics, heavy with liquor, the eluded dead searching for fragments we wept. Today, Ziploc bags of overused surgical masks and spare change, wakes by the river, and a script of rumors about this city. We keep secrets of cousins and no aunties, an impossible other, tilapia and tamarind, hair underwater, recently released homie in transit on a curb in velvet, freezing. Homie's home now, bus stop benches, allegedly. We are the ones who have crucified sun. This water and the neighborhood now smells half-eaten. There lacks prophecy for residents, and migrants are brutalized. Call aunties, call uncles for space on their apartment floors. Call aunties, call uncles for green cards. Call aunties, call uncles for family. This morning, stabbed in robbery. Aunties and uncles collect night smoke, always a mist, popular and opening. We play a history of hiding aunties, hiding uncles, sleepless cousins of refusal, the refuse under the deep of this here city. I'll read 3 more short things. I think my time will be there. So the first poem that I read started with the poem I ask about what falls away. And it sort of, there was a really sort of interesting moment where all sort of grief collapsed on top of me right at the sort of outset of the pandemic, right? So in all these ways, as I said, I lived in Los Angeles with my partner, and I was teaching creative writing at Cal State San Bernardino. The opportunity to come back and build ethnic studies at San Marcos, which is the hometown university for me because I grew up in Oceanside. That presented itself. My cousin was sick, who's since passed. He was sick with esophageal cancer, so it was really rough. My father's, he's 79 years old, turning 79 years old this year. His dementia is severe at the moment. And so there's a lot of reasons to come back home. And so a lot of things were happening for me. And when I got the new job, thankfully, came back, we moved to City Heights, right off of University. And sort of that was my portal into the world, portal back to into San Diego and into the world, but in a very limited way, right? Because the pandemic was raging at that particular time. And so that first poem I asked about, What Falls Away, sort of comes out of that spirit. And I'm going to read a few poems, two poems from there about that moment. And I don't have the book with me. It's not out. I had a publisher. They couldn't handle it because the pandemic messed up their ability to do it, to put the book out. So thankfully, I just signed a contract, and the book will be back out in February. Maybe I can come back and share that. I draft this, dear Kasama. So Kasama is a Tagalog, a common Tagalog phrase, Tagalog word in the sort of Philippine left for similar to comrade, compa. I draft this, dear Kasama, against fishhooks of hope. I draft against slow elimination. I draft from soft interior of riot. I draft syllables of known sadness, such knowing, such evidence, such kitchen table phenomenology of you reading this, of this reading you. On a rainy morning, I see you in a blue mask and black hoodie, delivering bags of groceries at the doorstep. I draft from collected stillness, restless ghosts archived in my veins. Consider this an intimate poetics of rage. Consider this rage divine refusal. Let us talk about such refusal. Let us talk about such dysregulation of promise. Let us talk about how much I miss you. Decision to make. I'm gonna move from that book. I'm gonna read about Balboa Park. So being the poet laureate is interesting. It's fantastic, right? But they also are inviting me to sort of share, put me in spaces that aren't literary in nature, right? And so, which is great because I get to meet a lot of great folks and build and open up space for collaboration with folks that I wouldn't immediately be able to sort of have access to. But I was invited to deliver a poem at the State of Balboa Park at the Natural History Museum, right? The State of Balboa Park, that the mayor and the mayor was giving the State of Balboa Park. And I thought this was going to be interesting, right? Because Balboa Park is, undeniably gorgeous, right? Undeniably. But I think I experienced Balboa Park very differently. I've experienced it very differently over the years. I think for me, for a long time, Balboa Park was only like the Centro and like World Beat Center, and that's it. That was like, and then whatever festival was happening like right off the park, right? And that was the only part of the park that I knew. Every other part I was not really familiar with, and so I knew that I was interested in sort of developing a poem in honor of the park that I knew, but also knowing very well who I might be in front of at the State of Balboa Park event, like really, really wealthy people, right? And that was an interesting sort of negotiation. And so I just sort of came back and remembered who I write, not necessarily who I write for. I don't write on behalf of anybody, but who I write to, right? Who I want to speak to, who I want to build with, who I want to see, and who I want to be seen by, right? And so I wrote this this piece, and I want to thank Jim again, the Space Bar. This will be my last piece, and it's in honor of Balboa Park. It's called The Future Perfect Park of Possibility. First peoples first. The bell tower will have learned kumeyaay bird songs here in the park of tomorrows, a park of accumulated yesterdays, a park anticipating all futures. Let the gourd rattle talk to us. Let first peoples teach us. Land before property, song before policy. I promise you, tonight this park will have planned its own futures. Tonight this park will have planted its own futures, and here a seed of remembrance. Butterflies will have experimented with love of their own bodies in the butterfly garden. Elsewhere along the park, we will have inhaled the soft healing of smoke from burning copal and sage, and danzantes will have protected us as we will have marched for liberation, for the land, for the four directions, for our futures, for our ancestors, from here through downtown and back. Each blade of grass here, each underground root here, each root reaching for us here will have known the weight of migrations, weight of settlements, of sorrow, of joy, weight of relentless freedom dreaming. I swear these trees will have known our hands, they will have known our knees, they will have known their own migrations, and they will have known the tender souls of our marching feet. Off Park Boulevard, poets will have rested fragments and lyrics inside the soundscape. We will have been inside the beats of drum circles as capoeiristas will have bent their bodies against the space-time continuum. We will have heard overhead airplanes of both departures and arrivals, hopes and fears. Meanwhile, at the centro, youth in thrifted nylon and leather and denim will have queered a quinceañera. And not a moment too soon, there will have been planted somewhere at this park a rainbow bouquet of discarded toothbrushes collected from the Sonoran desert. Peace will have been to the migrants and their familias. Peace will have been to the Tohono O'odham peoples and their land. In this park of possibility, atop 4 square feet of dance floor, a tap dancer will have tapped in rhythm with the soft flapping of butterfly wings. In this park of dreams, we will have never forgotten to tip the keyboardist playing 80s jams in the hallway outside the old Globe. We'll have never forgotten to tip the guitarist reciting Bob Dylan and Bob Marley in the sweetest voice of resistance. There will have been a performance artist who will have restaged history to photograph our future as feminists. There will have been so many anti-disciplinary artists reminding us that our future is indigenous, is black, is queer. Our future is freedom, a future for us all. This is a park where we will have fallen in love again at the Organ Pavilion, or on the bridge over the 163, or at the edge of a parking lot again and again. This is a park where, I promise, a profound and fiercely tender love for people, for land, for water, for sky, will have taught us what it means to sincerely care for us here. Thank you.
Jason Magabo, Perez. I didn't know you were at Locust. Boy, that was the place to go in La Jolla.
Right after slam,
And
right
that-
after the slam, we would go to.
And I didn't know Joy was there. When she walked in the room, you knew she was there.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful woman. I was 55 when she died. And when she walked into the room, I was wishing I was 35. Definitely, for sure. And at Galocas, Ant Black was there with his entourage, and he was an all-American high hurler at Cal State San Marcos. And see the Lakota tribe, when there's a group of people who are going to the sweat lodge together, they become very, very close. It's family, but they call it a Chospi. And if you're in the Chospi and you die, they're gonna take care of your children. You're that close. And that group that came to Glocas, they were all from Cal State San Marcos, and they all hung out together. And then I went to Cal State San Marcos one day to go to a lecture, and I got lost, and there was a parking attendant, and I walked over to ask him where the thing was. It was Aunt Black. He was working a student job. And he was just so nice. And I was just so moved because he was so talented. And he was just a human being. So can we give him some more love, please? I'm so glad we're recording this. We put the record button a long time ago. This is going to be on the internet. Alfred Williams couldn't be here today, but in the next couple of days, you'll have it on the internet. You can see yourselves online. But I'm so glad that your message is going to be online so more people can hear what you're all about. So that's really cool. That's really very, very cool. Okay, you can unfasten your seatbelts now because Loris got us and now he got us. And if you want to come back in February, you got it. Just let me know. All right. Are you ready for some more poetry?
Yeah.
Do you remember when we talked about the electric picnic?
Yes.
Well, there's also an electric home that was just put on by those two ladies over there. That was amazing. It was at San Diego Writers Inc. at the gallery that's there. A whole bunch of people showed up. There was some really beautiful poetry, and then they had music afterwards. And Marjorie is Deborah's partner, Marjorie Pasoli, and she's going to come up here right now because you thought you're getting off the hook with talent. It's just going to get better and better and better. Marjorie, come on up.
Well, thank you. And September 1st, we have our closing reception from 6 to 8, and half of that will be an open mic. So come on down. So right now, I'm trying to get my butterflies to fly in formation. This poem, I wasn't certain what I was going to read, but this one is in the San Diego Poetry Annual. And 2018 started my journey. I found my daughter's nearly empty journal and I had to finish it for her. And I just kept on writing. Skybrush. With a twinkle in her eye, she painted rainbows in the sky. I looked up, pondered, then asked, "How big is your brush?" Waited for her reply. "As big as the sky, as large as my love for you." That made me smile, more than touched. My eyes began to shimmer. Reflections of love filled my eyes. Colorful emotions dripped onto the canvas of me. We all start in the womb. This sacred space holds women near and far. Our journeys start before birth. The DNA sisterhood acknowledges our covenants. We each have our path to walk. The womb is our birthright. It gives life to ideas and thoughts. Children are not the only thing we bear. Not all of us can or choose to do so. Our temple, the container of energies, ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, the trinity that can go awry when not given reverence. My mother went through it all. Molestation, miscarriage, birth of me, and hysterectomy. Joy and depression went hand in hand, things not talked about back in the day. We are all here to share it all, recall the power in each of us. We continue to beat our drums to the heartbeat above. We are the inner core, the heartwood of the tree. Many rings surround us. May we all grow together. One last one. Elderberry wine. I swallow elderberry wine. The wines of youth overflow into my ears. Years speed up. Respect slows down. The flower wreath in my hair is for the Grateful Dead. I keep on trucking. Not always happy about this strange trip. Inconvenient stores line the highway. My poems aren't filled with magnolias or grandchildren. Maybe next time. Rainbows, bees, clouds, mermaids, and more. My pages' companions, for they are her messengers. Ashes worn around my neck, left ventricle, the place where we meet for a cup of tea, or to be filled with an ocean of tears to swim with my girl any damn well time I please. Forget me nots, remembrances cut short, not my flower of choice. Paint my room black, rage against the machine, make the record go backwards. I keep on trucking. Take another sip of wine. Cheers. Thank you.
You guys remember red wine named Kabari? You ever drink that? My buddy from high school, when I was at the University of Florida, he visited me. He got this big old jug of this stuff. And he said, here. So I went, no, man, put your arm up like this. So I put my arm up like that, and he put the Kabari here. Now put your finger through the little hole. Now that's how you drink the Kabari. I felt like such a man. But boy, is the hangover really nasty, huh? Thank you, Marjorie. We love you too. I met this young man at the Electric Womb. He is a veteran. He was very nice to me after I read. It's really nice when you finish reading poems and there's no tomatoes flying through the air coming your way. No, he's a very nice young man, and we talked a little bit about poetry. I told him about coming here if he wanted to, and he's here. This is Dean Williams. Hey.
Hey, breaking out of barriers today, right?
Yeah.
Pushing to the future.
Go for it.
Without fear, okay? I'm tired of fear. So, thanks for putting me in this direction. Okay, I have one poem, and I'm gonna read it. Okay? This is the one I have on my collection. I wrote this poem after my dad's suicide at his funeral, as you know, I was preparing to go up, and to deal with all that confusion that I had. So this just spontaneously came out. Dad, observations and lessons. As a young child, Dad fixed my broken toys. He patched my knees. He pushed my tricycle. He dried my tears, helped build my fort, and he baited my hooks with worms. As a child, Dad made the outdoors seem like home and the indoors safe. He calibrated my compass and pointed the way that led us apart. As an adolescent, Dad taught me man thing. To shoot a gun, responsible. To drive a clutch and truck. To be careful with girls. That was it for my sex education. To be honest and true. To choose friends with care. To work hard, be fair, stand up for yourself. As a young adult, Dad taught me that families are breakable, that ties can be broken, and love is fragile, and life is too short.
as an adult, Dad taught me, through example, to listen to my heart, to act accordingly, to not look back, and make no apologies, and to push and pursue personal happiness at all costs. Do it all. Dad never showed emotion. Sadness, happiness, same. Any attempt to discover what he was feeling, he made us all guess. Now, in the end, I will never know what he was thinking, what he was feeling, what was so unbearable. He took it with him. He took it all with him. And I will never know.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Okay, I gotta poll the audience. If you think that he's a performance poet and a damn good one, and he doesn't know it, clap your hand. If you don't come back next month, there'll be some people that are disappointed. I love what's going on with your body, your hands, and you know, that stuff about your dad. It's really important stuff for all of us.
Yes.
You remind me of June Jordan's quote. She was a professor at Berkeley, and she did poetry workshops during the summer for kids all over the world. And she said that there's about leadership. So there's something about leadership. A lot of it has something to do with power, and there's power about domination. But she said poetry is not even in the vicinity of domination. Poetry is about connection. That's what it's about. And I think all of us connected with you. Give him some more love for you. Thanks for coming up and talking with me. I enjoyed our conversation, and I think everybody enjoyed you today. So thank you very much. All right. Well, I've got egg on my face for the next poet because I messed up her being a feature here. Really bad. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but she has been around. She's been in the San Diego Poetry Annual forever. She's a wonderful writer. This is Carol Moscript.
I just want to say this is an exceptional poetry community. And I'm really glad that I'm starting to become part of it. I have a couple of prose poems for you today. The first one is, I met a man. I met a man who was 110. Pancho Villa had almost hanged him when he was only 11, along with his father. The rope was around his neck when Villa was routed, but he lived 99 years more. So the villagers led him around like a precious prize, pointed to him as a community asset when his mind had gone. This was in Velarde, New Mexico. I was allowed to touch history in front of the old flat church facade. I shook his skeletal hand. I believed in history that day. But what if he were only 100 and it was really his brother that got away? Was the story in any of Villa's biographies? I chose to be a believer anyway and stood in awe of his survival. Description: shrunken to the bone, of course, hollowed cheeks, a short, slight frame. Someone still carefully dressed him up with the pride of a vaquero, boots, medallion belt, starched white shirt, a major southwestern hat, almost obscuring his misty brown eyes. Villa's manic vision could still be seen as a fixed image on his ancient pupils. Like the sun of the god, like the sun god, Huitzilopochtli, a scorching of the cornea forever and demanding blood tribute. Via. Death's double, disguised with a big phony looking mustache, so that anyone could tell who was coming. Death's straight shooting devil, double the deaths at his hands. Jones Nook, 33 South Road, Waterloo, England. A small shop for the poor, for those doing poorly, as the shop itself is poor. Pearls of water forming on the ceiling, seepage not from the roof but from the second story, leaving coffee-colored, shilling-sized stains. The old guy in the corner who long ago shrunk under his clothes, gray and rumpled, snoozes over his cup of dark tea, revives for a moment to take another slurp, then back to the nap. Beans on toast, spaghetti on toast, 35 pence, top of the menu. Ruby topped plastic tables against the walls. Nothing has been wiped down for years, though the middle-aged paunchy manager runs the orders to the tables himself with minced steps to express extra care for the customer. No matter what the fare, a shock of thinning Elvis greased dyed black hair falling between his eyes, while he places each order on the table, sober as a banker with big sums on his mind. Not a bare space on any wall. Frame picture after picture of ship on high seas, pitched by giant slaps of waves. Ship in harbor, ship deep in white foam. Ship on a gray background purified of all environment. Ship in heavens, orange, violet, sunset flames. Ship blessed under double rainbows. Calico ship, ship caught by windcat slicing sails to tatters. But ship nation still afloat. Lines of curving hulls, high masts and full sails, pictured for their own sakes. The grandest decks of life to contemplate as one eats a ketchup beanie mess on charred and crumbling toast.
Thank you, Carol. I started in the middle of that. I started feeling like I was at a hootenanny. And if you're not in your 70s, you don't know what the hell that is. But we would sing Bob Dylan and Joan Baez, and we'd all have turtlenecks on, and it'd be summertime. I had turtlenecks on. Madison, is this your first time here? This is her second time. Please give her a warm welcome, Madison Victoria.
So I want to start by saying a lot of the poems here brought tears to my eyes, and it's very beautiful. And I firmly believe that angels are those who remind us of magic lost. And I can confidently state that this place is like a small slice of heaven. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I'm just going to share a few short ones. Drunken fool with hot boozy breath clambers over to the ear of his muse for the night to spill his pot of crock belly onto the poor girl's thigh. Soup of the day? Jibber jabber, he'd say was Shakespeare. She'd agree, the stench was medieval. In his stupor, he's made it to the temple to confess. Upon her blank canvas, her vestal virgin, her porcelain pretty poker face. What better use for a cool young garden of white lilies than to stain it with all the old piss and blood of your ache? So this one's super short, but it's kind of in the same vein as that one. It's just this. Men flock to the underage and the broken like goddamn seabirds, squawking, strutting for the soft porn of an unattended sandwich. This one's also very short. Holly Ma, Holly Ma. Holly is trailer trashed with 4 missing teeth and a gun. Her black cherry tongue pulsing through the gap in a wild grin you didn't see coming. And that was inspired by the fact my dental bridge came out.
Oh,
So this one, the prompt for it was given to me because I last year bought a typewriter for myself to practice a different way to write poetry. And the prompt was the 3 words, ethereal, where, and kids. So I wrote this. Where do the kids go? The fat kids, the cripple kids, the slow kids, the fast kids. Puberty's a sight like sublimation, making the heaven in children a vapor, sweat off during prom and gym class and every test of self we put them through. The truth is, the kids are dead. Some liminal thing kept up in the attic. But if you move slow, you can still hear that little voice and see them playing in the street. This is my last one, another very, very short one, and it's titled On Regret. The shadows play beneath the tree. There's sunlight on a swallow's back. Butterflies flutter about the jacaranda blooms, and I'm here screaming at you. Thank you.
Madison Victoria, can you give her some love, please? You look like a girl that I would meet at a hootenanny. Got the long hair and the flowing dress. Madison Victoria, I would like you to meet your cousin, Andy Palacino. You're both traveling in the same canoe that's full of silence and fire. Thank you for coming. Please come back. All right. So we're down to our last 2 poets. And we have a tradition here at Second Sunday where when we're all said and done, and I read the last poem, hopefully with a flute player backing me up, we hang out. We maybe have some more coffee, or you go up to somebody and say, "What are your influences?" Or "I really liked your poem," or that kind of stuff. We have the author's table over here if you want to get some literature. So we just kind of don't rush out the door. We hope you feel that you just hang out a little bit. And let's go with a lady that comes to my poetry classes and charms us, and also has us very, very involved with the craft of poetry. She's very good at the craft of poetry. This is Donna Castaneda.
Thank you. Okay. Can you all hear me? No. No, yes. Yes, no?
Yeah,
Louder?
just get a little closer to the mic.
Okay.
Put it up a little bit. There you go.
There, okay.
That's it.
All right. Okay, so this first poem I'm gonna read, it's in a ghazal form, and it's the poem, it's couplets. But what you do is it's about a certain theme, and my theme is insomnia. So, and it's called Insomnia Sojourns. Insomnia, my little Fuseli monster, refuses to let me get back to sleep. Throughout my life, I've struggled at night to get back to sleep. It's 3 a.m. I get up to pace in the dark, avoid the mirrors. My spectral image is my death image, and I will never get back to sleep. Did you ever have a migraine that kept you up at night? Tom said no, but he thinks he had a small headache in 1978. He easily goes back to sleep. A meandering daydream is my pleasure. Sleep dreams are too bizarre. Freud says write them down. I say don't waste the paper and get back to sleep. Who owns the night? Me and my sleepless misery? Or the opossum who trundles across the fence top, never thinking twice about getting back to sleep? Half awake, I thought of Elisa the first time in years. Turned over, reached for my phone, and her internet obituary appears. That night, I never went back to sleep. From upstairs, I see the 3 young men across the deserted street, talking in the lit garage. Transcendent and lonely, they don't think of getting back to sleep. Gazing up at the full moon, its resolute light untethered from time, it shines on all who have stood alone wondering, in what life will I ever get back to sleep? And I couldn't sleep last night either. This second poem it's short, but I just want to let you know it's a sad poem. It's about children and death. So I just want to let you know that. But I think it's important because one of the things, if you know Kimberly Crenshaw, does anybody know who she is? If you've ever heard of critical race theory or intersectionality, she is the person who articulated that. She's a really important theorist. I talk about her in my classes. But one of the things that she did is she developed a program called Say Her Name. And it is about saying the names of women who have died, Black women in particular, who died in the criminal justice system. And this particular poem is about a child, an immigrant child, but I think it's so important that we don't forget them, that we need to say their names. So this one is called A Prayer for Jacqueline, Amay, Rosemary, Kal, Lakin, 2011 to 2018. A 7-year-old Guatemalan immigrant who died at the US-Mexican border from a rapidly progressive infection that resulted in multiple organ failure and death. NBCnews.com, 2019. Jacqueline, give me your hand, your palm, the petal of a calla lily. Now is the time to go, and I will guide you out of the desert. You can smile. We're happy. I will take you to the table where we'll brush away the fallen cottonwood leaves and drink the good drinks waiting for us there. Your mother will sit with you, and your father will sit with you. You will touch your mother's hand, a calla lily. Turn your face to the southern light, and your smile will rise to the top of the red canyon walls.
Let's give Donna some love, please. the Department of the Interior. Her name is Deborah Holland, and she is a Pueblo Indian. And in her first 100 days as our Secretary of the Interior, she started it's a group of people who are trying to find the missing Native American women and trying to solve the cases of murdered Native American women. And I think that poem is a very important poem. But Deborah Holland, what she's doing is very important. There's a movie called Wind River that will talk about that. It's an amazing movie. And when we are remembering our Black sisters, like you were asking us to, we also need to remember our Native American sisters that have been murdered or are missing. So thank you for coming. Please keep coming here. Yeah, appreciate you very much. And this fellow has come up here and he's sang and he does poetry, and he got us singing one time. And I think everybody says, is he going to come back? And I hope he is, but he's here today, Alistair McLeod. Alistair.
Not a lot of time here, so I have a poem.
We've got 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, I have a poem and I have a song, but we'll see. I'll start with the poem now. I have to give a bit of an introduction. As you know, we are now in the Barbenheimer age. And I do not say this lightly. I recently read a book called The Rise of the Anthropocene, which is the concept that we are now in a phase of human history in which, or Earth history, that is being created by us. And what struck me about the Oppenheimer movement, which is a very good movement, is that these guys, these brilliant physicists, they knew what they were doing. And they knew they had the future of the world in their hands. We also do, but we don't know what we're doing. And as evidence of this, I will cite you. You know what turns out to have caused this horrible devastation in Maui? The Civil War need to supply sugar. Hawaii was turned over vastly, huge areas of Hawaii were turned over to sugar plantations. The sugar plantations were eventually all closed down for complicated reasons. And what took place then was the invasion of all sorts of highly flammable grasses that were not native to Hawaii. That's why Maui. Now, that's a striking example to me how much we don't know about what we're doing. It's not knowledge. It could be titled humility. It could be titled hubris. It could be just titled ecological meditations. We hold our fragile globe up to the light as if it were an infant's colored toy. We stare and wonder foolish at the night, as if 'twere ours to create or destroy. But no, we authored nothing. We were made. This planet womb itself that gave us birth was born of atoms and of stars decayed. Unmeasured aeons passed. Things proved their worth merely by existing and by ending. They had the grace to take their place in time. They exited when they were done their rending, their work a solar system or a climb. Who then are we who with such pride resound to overstay our welcome on this holy stolen ground? I'm very interested, possibly in the history of the labor movement in America, worldwide. I've done just enough physical labor, I've been around actual physical labor to have some idea what it means. Stupid white upper middle class jerks really don't know much about that. But I got a snitch. But you'll all recognize this song, and I absolutely invite you to join me on the chorus. I'm pretty sure all of you.
Is it Joe Hill?
No. Some people say a man's made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. Muscle and blood, skin and bone, a mind that's weak, and a back that's strong. You know, 16 times, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. I was born one morning, the sun didn't shine. I picked up my shovel and walked to the mine. I loaded 16 tons of number 9 coal, and the straw boss said, well, it's not so. You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. I was born one morning, drizzling rain. Fighting and trouble, my middle name. I was raised in a canebrake by an old mama lion king, a hot old woman made me walk the line. You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. If you see me coming, better step aside. A lot of men didn't. Part of men died, one fist of iron and the other of steel. If the right one don't get you, then that one will. You look 16 times, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the store.
That was like a hootenanny. Thank you.
Been a while since I had that.
You set the bar for next time.
You're a flute player, you're always looking at what's on your right. Because you do this.
Yes.
And if somebody's there and they hit the end of your flute, there goes your front teeth. So that's why I said I want to sit over here.
I wrote this at John Fox's workshop yesterday. It's called the Kairos Medicine Brew. Joe's a part of it, and there's a few other people. Ellen's part of it. Mylon comes sometimes. And so there's about 2 or 3 more drafts of this. But as she's getting set up here, I just wanted to say I'm teaching a class at San Diego Writers Inc. later on this month. The UK, England, has a theme called Poets Day, and it's on August 21st. And so the poets that I chose for this were United States poets that were born in the months of August. So if you go to the San Diego Writers Inc. website and you look for Jim Moreno's class, please sign up and come by and write with me. We appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm also doing a class for San Diego Writers Inc. and it starts tomorrow morning. And I consider it the beginning of the writing year at Liberty Station. Because at 9:30 in the morning, I'll be leading a prompt class, and I'm going to start by showing the opening to my film, my indie film, which is called Flight of the Sparrow. And it's a dramatic moment that opens the film when the white mother gives away her African-American child. And it's a true story. So that's the prompt. And we have an hour of prompt, and then I'll be hosting 2 hours of room to write, which is just a very nice opportunity to come and sit and write in a quiet space where you feel supported.
Where's this now?
At Liberty Station, Barrack 16, San Diego Writers Inc., Inspiration Gallery. Okay.
I think all the Zoom people, or most of them, are still there. Can we give them some love, please? And Michael, thanks for dropping by. And Ellen, everybody, we really appreciate you being here. Angeli, Andy. And I guess then she's gone. They're almost all there. So we're gonna start with flutes again, and then we'll jump in with some poetry.
Oh, I can't resist a joke. So among flute players, jazz players, there's one thing that they never do because they think it's a gimmick, and it's called flutter tongue. So that's flutter tongue. So you might hear a little bit kind of as a joke.
This poem will start with a epigram by John Fox, and then I'll read the poem. We'll go ahead and start with the flute. There's settled on the serene face of early evening a burnished gold hum dissolves into science, silence, and fire. John Fox. The last summer for Naomi she had 9. When Naomi wrote, what a drama to keep thinking the last summer, the last birthday. I swam in that drama sea. But when I turned 75, I took 2 candles from my birthday cake. The green and white 7, the green and white 5. I laid them on the small altar of Indian medicine that sits by the door to the hallway. The blue-gray painting of dolphins swimming. An abalone shell holding hawk feathers and white sage. A small bag of cedar and a very large package of prayer tobacco. I placed those birthday candles among the Indian medicine, but every time I walked by the altar, I felt old. For the first time in my life, I thought about how this could be the last chapter, the last birthday. I walk by that altar many times a day, and each time I grew older and older in the halls of time. Then one day, I snatched up that 5 and plopped it down in front of the 7. 57. Heinz 57. A lovely sauce to pour on spaghetti. A lively libation for any plate of eats. A good number for a race car in the Daytona 500. And a good number to remember that each day is a good day to write. Each day we discover 57 ways to live from the wisdom of the pen.
Thank you for coming. We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Bye, you guys. Thanks for coming.
And let's stop recording. You want to go ahead and do that?
Let me see.
So you stop recording?
Yeah, let me see. I gotta find it.
Oh, Jason, let's give Jason some love for coming.
Stop recording.